This is BBC News, I'm Louis Ford Jones. We are bringing you continuing coverage of the latest breaking news, the developments, the reports that Iran is striking a US-run military base in Qatar. Let me run you through some of the details that we have, what we know right now, and what we're still waiting for confirmation on. We know that Qatar closed its airspace, diverted planes away from it. We know that the reports are that the White House, acknowledged that there were credible threats to this airbase, this US-run airbase. Then reports came through from AFP journalists initially of explosions over Doha. These are the live pictures over Doha, of course, the capital of Qatar. So just to remind you that this credible threat that was reported a short time ago is to the Al Udeid US-run airbase in Qatar. It's basically the biggest US-run airbase in the Middle East in the region, and was seen as a likely logical potential target for Iran to retaliate against US forces after the US attack on its nuclear facilities over the weekend. So there had been reports of a credible threat to this US airbase, and in the last few minutes explosions heard over the capital, Doha. Let's take a look at these pictures from a little bit earlier, and let's take a listen as well. So those pictures were just from the last 20 minutes or so. We are back now to the live pictures. Just to explain the geography and the timing of all this, these are the live pictures of Doha, just past 8 o'clock in the evening, as you can see there. And within the last 30 minutes, those pictures that we just showed, showing those explosions being heard near Doha. Now we understand that the credible threat was to the Al Udeid US-run airbase, not directly the civilian areas of Doha itself, but instead this US-run military airbase. Now we understand precautionary measures have been taken at this airbase, planes potentially flown out of the way, and of course defenses at the ready. This comes after the shelter-in-place order for US citizens in Qatar a little earlier. And one new line to bring you, just in the last couple of minutes, just since I've sat in the chair here and taken over from my colleague Donald Trump, we understand from the Reuters news agency citing CNBC, citing an admin official. Slightly convoluted there, but I just wanted to give you where we're getting this from. The line is this: Donald Trump is currently in the Situation Room with the Defense Secretary and the Joint Chiefs. So Donald Trump currently in the Situation Room with the Defense Secretary and Joint Chiefs, that is from CNBC American Network, citing an official in the administration getting to us here via the Reuters news agency. Our team in the US will be following that up. So if you have just joined us in the last few minutes, these are the live pictures that we are showing you right now over Doha. The reason being that explosions were heard over Doha. A potential credible threat was suspected at the Al Udeid US-run military base. It's the biggest US base in the Middle East in the region, and was seen as a potential target for Iran to retaliate after those strikes when the US got involved over the weekend and of course hit those nuclear facilities. So, all these developments reaching us in the last 20-30 minutes or so. So let's just try and pause for breath for a moment now. We've established the live pictures, and we've established those pictures of the explosion that we have. Let's speak now to the BBC World Service correspondent, so just bring us up to date. Given what we've just been learning over the last few minutes of how things stand there where you are, Luis, right now in Iraq. Also, we heard and confirmed that Iraq's al-Assad base, which houses US troops, has been attacked by, but apparently according to sources that talk to us, 2 missiles were fired toward al-Assad, which is the US's biggest base, in Anbar province. And these 2 missiles, as our military sources are saying, have been intercepted, and we still don't know if this is the first wave of attack or this is all that Iran wanted to do. But we can confirm that Iran has carried out this attack, it's naming it Tidings of Victory, and it doesn't say more. Iran's news agencies, what comes next, but they say that Iran simultaneously has attacked US bases in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and here in Iraq. It was expected. All these countries were on high alert. Most American citizens in Qatar, they received the first email from the US Embassy asking them to stay in a sheltered area and not to come out until further notice. And then after that, a few hours after, officially, the US Embassy posted that warning to its X platform. And then that was followed by the UK warning to its British citizens in Qatar, asking the same precautionary step to take and stay in a sheltered area. So step by step, hour by hour, we could feel in the region that that is coming. But as I said, it is not clear if it is the whole thing that Iran wanted to do, or it is only the first wave. I remember in 2020, when the US killed Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani here in Baghdad and assassinated him, Iran retaliated by firing 2 or 3 waves of ballistic missiles toward Al-Assad Air Base, and also Erbil Air Base housing US and coalition troops. So it is expected that this could be only the first wave, or it could be the only thing that Iran just wanted to send a message to the US that it can reach its bases. Although this Al Udeid base, which you mentioned, that it is the biggest and most important base in the region, is massive, and a very well protected base. I have traveled to several US bases, and that is the most protected base I can tell. And before this attack, there were a lot of alarms and warnings, so that led to US forces evacuating their fighter jets and also some other equipment to safer areas. And now you say more broadly now then, given these strikes, how does that change the international geopolitical balance of power there? How does it change relations between Iraq and Iran, and potentially here, Qatar and Iran? To be honest, Lewis, I think Iran is at odds with all these countries right now. Iran is in a very difficult situation, and no one can deny that it is in a difficult, delicate situation that has lost its trust in neighboring countries as well, including Iraq. Despite that, the Iraqi government multiple times has said that they oppose the US-Israeli jets using its airspace to attack Iran, but they can't do anything more than that. And there are reports that even some of the US fighters have used, and then they have used Iraqi airspace, which is the closest country to Iran. And Iran had, once upon a time, it had a very deep influence in this country, but still, its airspace was open to these jets to fly over and reach Iran and target. Although the Iraqi government says they cannot do much about these jets, they are opposing. They have complained against this to the UN, but no further steps they can take. And other countries, other Arab countries, especially in the Persian Gulf, despite that they have built a very close relationship recently with Iran, but also when it comes to the US, they have other calculations. Even in their statements regarding the US attack on Iran's nuclear sites, they were so cautious, they were so delicate in putting in words that they are condemning this attack. Their behavior was different from how they put statements out when Israel attacked Iran, so you can feel how Tehran can feel regarding the situation, and I think Tehran is in a situation where it feels that there is no reason to step back and think about its neighboring countries and its relationship right now with Persian Gulf countries. I say thank you very much for the moment. So this is a fast-moving, fast-developing situation, of course. Just want to bring you again those latest pictures we have showing the explosions in the skies of Qatar. We will have them in just a minute. Apologies for that. We will just get those lined up again. They're the only pictures we have so far. Let's take a look and a listen. So we're just going to play those through for you again because it's clearly quite tricky to see. Let's take a look. So that's the second time through there of those pictures. We will keep playing those pictures as well as keeping across the live pictures for you. So this is a developing situation. My colleague, Sio Atalan, is with me here. Sivash, just talk us through the very latest, if you would. Well, I'm just going to give you the reactions coming out of Iran a few minutes ago. Iranian state TV confirmed the attack as well, and then we had a statement coming out from the IRGC, which is Iran's Revolutionary Guard. They confirmed that they have carried out a missile attack against the US bases in Qatar, but nothing about Iraq. There were some reports about attacks on US bases in Iraq as well. They didn't mention Iraq, it was just about Qatar itself. They said that we have launched these missiles. They didn't speak of whether they had any reports of impacts or so on. They just described their attacks as very successful. And then you had another body in Iran, which is the High National Security Council. They also issued a statement and they went into more details saying that they fired 6 rockets. 6 is the same number of bombs that were used by the US to attack the Fordo site. They specifically mentioned that, so I guess it was a symbolic gesture, firing exactly 6 missiles. And they also stressed that we tried to avoid any civilian casualties. Our target was specifically the US base, and they also went at some length to say this should not have any impact on what they described as Iran's friendly and brotherly relations with our Qatari neighbors. So these institutions have confirmed the attacks and the motives behind it. We haven't had any report yet of moments of impact, though some Iranian outlets are showing videos which we don't know, haven't been verified yet, showing one impact from the missiles as well, but that's not confirmed. So that's as much as we can tell you so far. Interesting, really interesting, and just give us a sense of background, those sources and the media in Iran. Just talk us through how credible they are, how they operate, and what kind of freedom remind us of the situation in the country? Well, the state media is obviously completely under the control of the state, so we just look at that, mainly for confirmation of, what we already want to get official confirmation from. So that's state media as a criterion of confirmation of certain kinds of news. Otherwise, the Iranian authorities have instructed the press and other media outlets other than state-run TV to be very careful of what they report, very much similar to what the IDF is also instructing the reporters inside Israel of, not to show places where they think, strategic targets might be placed and so on. Whereas in Iran, it's not adhered to as much. User-generated material in Iran is extremely rife, extremely prolific. So they keep on going on Instagram, and you can get a very good sense of the targets that the Israelis are hitting inside the country, across the country, military bases, infrastructure, and so on. And that's why a lot of news sources rely very heavily on those images coming out of Instagram in Iran.